Good night and welcome to Mindful Live 394. I am your host, Nathan Springer. Thank you for being here. It is 10:06 on the 14th of the 5th in the beautiful Twin Island Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. Paradise on earth, as some people may consider it, as some people may say it's not a real place too. So there is that. Once you're on the inside, make sure you're hitting that like button. Double tap the screen over there on TikTok. That's how you hit the like button over there. If you are wondering how exactly you do that, well, that's how you double tap that screen. And on YouTube, if you are viewing this live too, please hit that like button. Allow the like button to feel your presence if you are looking at this on repeat. And that's the thing, if you ever miss any of these lives, while they're actually running, you could head over to YouTube, Nathan Spring over there on YouTube. Make sure you're subscribed to me there and catch all the lives as they pass through. I related, yeah, no problem. Yes, Joshua. In fact, in the beginning of the lives, when I first started, the reason I hired moderators in the very beginning was to keep answering that very same question, because that was a question asked at least 10 times per live. Strange it's not asked as much anymore. I wonder why. But yes. Alright, so what we're talking about this evening, what we're jumping in first into, is the news of the day, the news that many people are talking about, the fact that Tanti Earls is on the comeback. You all thought that was all you were going to see of her. Well, think again. Tanti Earls is on the comeback here. Alright. Let's jump into that story. Earl stays. Cabinet approves 1-year extension for top cop. Vibes. Police Commissioner Earl Christopher, who will celebrate her 61st birthday today. Tanti get a birthday gift. Look at that. Tanti get a birthday gift. You ask all the people, don't against others having an if you're actually are owners of one. Yeah, she became 61 today, has been given a 1-year extension by the cabinet to continue serving as this country's top cop. A release from the office of the Prime Minister yesterday stated that the cabinet on May 13th advised President Christine Kangaloo to extend Christopher's service as police commissioner for 1 year under Section 75 of the Police Service Act. Now, here's the hypocritical dirtiness inside of this. Because this same government was the government that went to Parliament to amend the bill to make sure that there is some stability in the tenure of the police commissioner. Because these acting cops and short-term cops, they don't have the security in their tenure enough to make proper decisions for our national security. So they went out there to make sure that this person will feel secure in their tenure so that they can make decisions and do the right thing. You see, if you have to beg the government every year for an extension of your acting cop role, then you're kind of beholden to the government, and that's not an ideal place to have a police commissioner. Good evening, Kevin Prezi Ramsawak. That's not exactly a good place to have your police commissioner. So I understood that. I agreed with that. That was a good idea. Move the commissioner from having, move the commissioner from having to beg every year for her job. But then what would you know? Okay, they made it that your contract you could get that 3-year contract, commissioner, get on a right thing. You feel safe and secure in your job now, commission. Nice. Well, actually, we're going to hire you a year before it's your final year on the job because of forced retirement. And then because of your retirement, you're still going to have to come back to us every year for us to extend your retirement. So your job contract may be a 3-year contract, but we are in charge of your retirement contract, and that one works 1 year at a time. Imagine that. So then basically it works out to being that they have a commissioner again who has to beg them every year for her job back. Something that they assured us, they were out there trying to make sure that didn't happen. That was their intention, Their intention was to make sure that the commissioner feels secure in her role so that she can execute her duties. So then you hire a retiree that has to get yearly extensions on her retirement. Convenient, innit? Very convenient for who it's convenient for. Last Saturday, Christopher spent time at the Police Academy at the annual Police Sports Day, where National Security Minister Fitzgerald Hines was in attendance. In a Facebook post yesterday, Hines, a former police officer, praised Christopher for her efforts. Mrs. Taggart, since serving as police commissioner over the last year, Christopher has been unable to reduce the homicide rate in TNT. In December 2022, when she was acting as police commissioner, Christopher set herself a murder reduction target of 20% in 6 months. However, in May 2023, she conceded that the reality was a 10% increase in the murder toll. Christopher had also set herself a 10% reduction target for motor vehicle larceny, but had to acknowledge there was a 1% reduction. And though the population does not feel any safer, she stated that she had exceeded her target set to reduce serious crime by 15% and achieved a serious crime reduction of 17%. Like, you see these... You see these figures that they like to quote and stuff. Like I always say, don't quote these figures to people. How is there going to be an increase in the murder rate, a 1% decrease in car larcenies, but we're going to boast about a super decrease in violent crime, in serious crime? What I would like to know in that serious crime category is which category of serious crime was the greatest reduced? Was it something that was easy for the police to fudge? Because there is fudging that goes on, Wasn't there? Is he a chutney singer? He's a chutney singer. The guy was recently robbed and made a complaint about the police report. He was robbed in some cards game or something like that. And when you hear about that Mickey Mouse game going on with police reports, you understand that what that does is it fudges the statistics too. If police giving you a runaround to give the report, an official report, on a crime that happened to you, you're understanding then that the official numbers are going to look lower. They're going to look lower, the official numbers. But that doesn't mean that the actual instances of crime in the country are lowered. It's just the police are not taking reports as readily. So if serious crime on the books is down, while serious crime in people's lives are up, that means that the police are doing a bit of dirty work there on the taking of the records. Not that they're actually reducing crime. Is Gary vindicated? Vindicated in what sense might be the question really and truly there? Because to some extent, Gary was always proved a certain kind of right in that whole scenario. Like, to me, I don't think anyone in that scenario was more right than Gary per se. I don't think anyone's role in the whole bacchanal that played out there seemed any more positive than Gary's role. I don't think so. Anybody that, to me, was wholesale believing all of the stories against Gary, and it was all just, you know, him and his crazy self. No. There did seem to be some kind of influence there, but I don't know if I'd say vindicated. But as I said before, the reason I think I just answered, you see, this is why I just answered that. Yeah, the reason why I said that I'm pretty sure she was going to get an extension is it's convenient. It's convenient for the government. She seems to be someone that the government is very comfortable with, for whatever reason that might be. The government worked with her previously in outlining certain things for the police service, and then they have her in the position where every year she needs an extension. That works well for them. So I think they would remain with her. Crime hasn't hit home with the government. I don't think they are bothered by that, really and truly. I think that the Prime Minister and the PNM believe that the crime statistics right now isn't a losing topic. So I don't see how. Join for what purpose exactly, sir? We discuss totally discussions on Thursday if you want to just come and talk. But you know, we talk about stories, so if you want to join and discuss something on this story, no problem. What exactly you're thinking about there? Kamala Gary unhappy over reappointment. Munilal, she will have to up her game. Opposition leader Kamala Prasad-Bisseso said she has a heavy heart over the one-year extension of Erla Christopher as police commissioner. She said the nation must pray that Christopher would be able to lead successfully. Prasad-Bisseso was speaking at the opposition leader's 5th installment of the Anti-Crime Talk Symposium at the Missouri Community Center in Morva last night. The former Prime Minister said that she has no pain or trouble with Christopher, as she pointed out that the opposition voted for appointment in the parliament. However, Prasad-Bisseso noted that all of Trinidad and Tobago is a hotspot, and she was worried about what would happen this year, as the news of Christopher's one-year extension does not provide any assurances that things will get better. Look at where we've come. The crime rate is the worst it has ever been in decades. No one is safe anywhere in any part of TNT, said Prasad-Bisseso. We have to give the police their due, and we pray to God that Erla would be able to lead them in this year. But I tell you, my heart is very heavy in hearing this, she said. Meanwhile, opposition MP Dr. Rudal Munilal yesterday, that there will be no wild celebration over Christopher's extension. Munilal, who is the opposition's shadow national security minister, said that Christopher does not have a stellar track record. I do not think that Mrs. Harewood Christopher has distinguished herself in that office and given confidence to the beleaguered population. However, it appears that the government has less confidence in anyone else. He said, I wish her success, but she will have to up her game given the collapse of the national security infrastructure around her, and she is forced to work with the most incompetent Minister of National Security in this country's history. Regrettably, I don't think the country will witness a wild celebration with her reappointment. Yeah, we should have just made Pastor Clive Dutton or Pastor Winston Coffee Commissioner. You sure about that? Interesting comments by Kamala. Yeah, very interesting comments, and I think tempered comments, and fair enough. Not necessarily insulting the Commissioner of Police, which was one avenue she could go down. But speaking tempered, I find as elections near in, whoever is Kamala's speechwriter in the last couple months or so seems to be getting things better and better. The statements seem to be becoming more and more reasonable. We'll see as election closes in. Griffith spoke about this too. He said you cannot appoint a James Bond or a Rambo to work with the Mr. Bean and Tommy Joseph of TNT National Security. So her extension fits in perfectly. He said any independent office holder that shows competence, success, and popularity above that of this government is deemed a threat. Remember, earlier, when measured in performance and competence by international experts, could not place in the top 15 of those who applied for Commissioner of Police or Deputy Commissioner of Police. So in terms of competence, accountability, and performance, birds of a feather. Whoever is running a PR right now have populist leanings. Yep. Kevin Harris says, I wonder what were her accomplishments to warrant her reappointment. Loyalty to the government, I would guess. If I were to guess what her accomplishments would be, I would say she was a loyal follower of government policy. She was willing to take the darts and arrows for government policy. And at no point was she willing to throw the government under the bus for failures of the TTPS. I don't think at any point in time during any of her statements this year did she say anything to the effect of this is the government's fault. It's strange because she isn't taking accountability really on herself, but neither is she pointing out where the government is falling short. So it's like a strange paradox in a sense. It's like the police constantly say we're doing our best, and they're not saying that the government is failing them in providing them with what they need, but yet they are failing at their duty. So that's a very scary place for Trinidad to be. Gary did that all the time, and I think that's a good thing. Some people mightn't like that. Some people may call that part of the PR campaign, but I think that's a good thing. I think the idea of different offices in the country with power is so that there is that push and pull, that tug, that battle to some extent to help get accountability out. If all of the top offices are just friendly with each other, there's no one to hold anyone accountable to. They're all friends. At some point in time, I want it to be that if the government fails in giving what is necessary to the police commissioner, to the police service, that the police service tells us exactly that, okay, we asked for this and that from the government and they have yet to give it, and that is part of the reason. We think that we need so and so and so and so, the government isn't giving us all those so's, and that's why we aren't getting the progress we need in X area. But you don't get that, not from Tanti Earls. Tanti Earls is a loyal servant. A loyal, I might not say a public servant, I might say a loyal government servant. Not a loyal public servant necessarily, a loyal government servant. And in so doing, she would be rewarded for her loyalty. Why would she not? Like I think things have to go really upside down for them to throw her out. So, no surprise there really and truly. Hines Munilal in House tussle. Heated debate over gang CCTV cameras, theft of police uniforms. As he was grilled on the illegal installation of CCTV cameras by criminals to monitor the police, and the theft of police uniforms at the Prime Minister's residence, Minister of National Security Fitzgerald Hines went on the offensive in the House of Representatives yesterday. And things like this offend me personally. Like when you are being asked about really fair questions from the population, I don't like the idea that you think that's the time to go on a political offensive. I don't think that's the suitable time for such. It's similar when the Prime Minister was asked about his travels and the cost of his travels, and he used that point in time to say basically Munilal does not have the moral authority to ask him about that, and that's ridiculous to me. Answer the questions. They are good questions. They are proper questions. There are strange things occurring that you need to be held accountable for. Asked by Oropush East MP Dr. Rudal Munilal whether in light of the theft of police uniforms at the official residence of the Prime Minister, the Minister of National Security, which has responsibility, the Ministry, of National Security, which has responsibility for the installation of CCTV cameras, had undertaken an inventory of the CCTV cameras at key government locations, including the residence of the Prime Minister, the President and the Parliament. Hines said the question is as convoluted as the mind that delivered it. And no, the question is not convoluted, because here's what the story said about that missing uniform. When they went to check the CCTV footage to see about those missing uniforms, there were no cameras. Like, how do you mean? The official residence of our head of state is not monitored on every square inch. Well, Abu Friday, as so my belief of it, I think my belief of it should be inconsequential. Because Hines is saying the question is convoluted, but the question isn't convoluted. I'm going with what the official story is. So Mr. Hines could clear that up easily for everybody. Say, no, they're actually cameras, and that was a mistelling of the story there by the media. But he didn't say that. Instead of clearing up what's going on with the cameras, he flung feces at the fan and let it spray as far and wide as he thought possible, and figured that would be a good smoke screen. House Speaker Bridget Annie said George asked Hines to withdraw the statement, which he did. He said, I just want to remind the member that it was his government, led by the member of Siparia, who as soon as they came to government in 2010, dismantled all of the security cameras that we had at the airport. And you talking about 2010, sir? Like, what is the relevance of that? Trying to find out if there are cameras right now in the Prime Minister's residence. Telling us about 2010 camera. Like, sir, I remember 2010 partnership, scary stuff. But that's over a decade ago. Children who write SCA were not alive for what this man is talking about here. You have to go up to Form 2s to find people that might have been alive for this. And your obfuscation of this whole thing is to talk about 2010 cameras in the airports.
Well, I mean, this is the thing. I think we had to understand politicians right nowadays. We had to realize when their back is against the wall and they really have no kind of answers to questions, right? Especially when the questions are coming from, sorry to say, not from a press standpoint, because we kind of understand what the journalism is at this point, right? We understand how the questioning from the media houses are kind of framed. So anytime it's coming outside of that, I don't think politicians can answer. So they're back against the wall, so they have to deflect. And then bring up some thing from like 3 years ago, 15 years ago, like that. We go solve this issue because we talk about this issue right now.
Yeah.
Not the current issue, and really being asked by the populace, now let's deal with something else that has nothing to do with what we're talking about.
And the thing is, he really was avoiding answering the questions. And to me, that makes this whole thing more suspicious. The link between the SSE, the Prime Minister's residence and the no cameras, the cameras on the poles by the criminals, the murder of the CCTV installer by the SSE. Remember that? The guy who was murdered allegedly by the SSE was a CCTV technician. Alright? I don't think them fellas who brain shaky enough to be running around with guns at every hour in the day really and truly climbing poles and installing CCTV cameras. By and large, installation of a CCTV camera with the ability to monitor it from a remote location isn't generally something the riffraff off of the street do. That's a contracted job. Big money contracts, actually. So, I wonder if those gangs install those cameras themselves. Again, I will repeat, the reputed murder, one of numerous reputed murders, attributed to the rogue SSA security agency in our country, is the murder of a CCTV technician. Right? And he was trying to avoid all of these questions. Just so you know, he was trying to avoid these questions. As the crosstalk grew, the speaker intervened and asked Hines to respond to the question. The speaker, who is part of his own party, had to finally say, answer the question now, boy. Hines said, I was indicating the police rather admirably identified the problem. They retrieved the 23 illegal cameras and all of this small talk and brouhaha about 61 and 62 cameras and the police seizing monitoring equipment in offices or homes and all of that is completely untrue, he said. Y'all were in, I don't know how many of y'all were in the live Saturday night, but I read this story when they retrieved the 23 cameras from throughout that North Central Division. They went down to Bangladesh in St. Joseph, raided a monitoring center, got large screen televisions that were monitoring 62 cameras. Was that story just whole sheet made up by the newspaper? Because our Minister of National Security is telling us that's untrue. What? We mean so the news just made the raid in Bangladesh with the TVs and the monitoring station. That's a Nancy story from the newspaper. Somebody in the newspaper just let their imagination run wild there. Really? Newspaper publications in our country do things that outrageous. I mean, that's... I don't hold all news in the highest regard, but I wouldn't think they would make up a whole raid on Bangladesh. If this story is true, it shouldn't be hard to verify. But here's the thing, Abu Friday. Then what? Because this is where he is supposed to be questioned. He is supposed to be questioned in Parliament, and he's supposed to answer those questions. If when he goes there, he smoke screens, pelts filth at the fan and lets it spray everywhere, and then ultimately comes down to just saying, nada is lie. What? What is that? Munilal said in light of Hines' pathetic and lethargic response whether an independent investigation would take place on this matter. Hines said he had difficulty in understanding what was meant by independence, since it was the police that investigated crime in Trinidad and Tobago. He said both the Strategic Services Agency and the police were continuing investigations into this matter. Hines said he could say that the development was not unprecedented, adding, we have seen that before in Trinidad and Tobago, we've seen it all around the world. It's an unfortunate development, but it occurred. And the intention of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service regarding the 23 cameras found, they assembled a team to investigate the matter, to gather all the facts. Who, when, where, and what authority, if any, though it appears none, because TNTech, the agency that they collaborated with, has indicated that it authorized, as is required under law, no one to install cameras on its poles. But the police service has gathered a very powerful team and is conducting investigations into the matter. Sure. Don't ever forget they interviewed a deaf man about the crashed helicopter. That's when the journalist should now step up and say what is what. I agree, Abu Friday. That's what I keep hoping for when our journalists talk. When our journalists talk, like, hold these men feet to the fire. Ask him about the report on the televisions, on the extra cameras. Is he saying that the police who gave that information on the report lied about that raid? What are you saying? Or is it that you are lying when you are supposed to be held accountable to the nation, when you are supposed to be the one responding to the nation's worries? You are here lying to us. Is that the case? I would hope not.
Expecting press to ask these questions is something. And the thing is, if we really take a look at press and history of press, people would want the mouthpiece of the people, but they have hardly been the mouthpiece of the people, and that's just the truth of the matter. And I think it's exacerbated to this point because now it has very much exclusive access to the political class, and I know that they roll around the same circles, right? So it's very hard to get journalists to ask questions. Like for the crime symposium, I haven't heard one good question by any journalist for the crime symposium, right? And what's funny is that they talk about independence of media and press, but I don't think the government would have allowed 15 independent news media people to come inside of there and ask questions. They wouldn't have even be allowed, and if they were allowed, they would have to sit in the back. They wouldn't even get a chance to ask questions. I tell you that's how it works, right? And sure, there are the one or two of your press that actually ask questions, pertinent questions, and they get down to it. And they just expose the fact of the government lacking in the range of actually answering proper questions.
Yep.
But we see it, right? The independent senator asked her questions and she couldn't even answer one question yet. Up to now, she can't answer one question. And she's got an extension. This is the funny thing. You understand what I'm saying? She has got an extension of a year, and up to now she can't answer independent Senator Paul Richards' questions. That was very crucial to her performance. You understand?
Correct.
So it's like Lord Father, can the populace not see that the incompetence is ever present?
Yep.
It's ever there.
Yep, it is. And the thing is, if there's no accountability, you saw the press was lost for visit the finance minister. Yeah, I saw that. Journalists won the HDC House and FUL 2 a nice check for Christmas. Ooh. What you think about the Minister of Finance appointing a committee to investigate money missing? It's what we do, committees, so money for friends, more of it. I think we have no real investigative journalists. Maybe Trinidad too small, they fear for their lives. Maybe. I don't know. But I do find that a lot of the questions seem to be rehashed. Not very critical, not asking hard questions, things that may actually be difficult for the government to answer, that may actually draw out difficult situations from those in power. Many of the times they seem like their intention is kind of, to give them that easier go, like, not to harass them too much. And really and truly in the world of politics, that was something, if I'm to blame that on somebody, I'll blame it on Obama. Obama created that kind of news media ally with the government kind of business, where the journalists and those in power are more allies and work alongside each other to get the best story out there to handle the nation. And that's a scary area you're going into, because it feeds perfectly into that kind of globalist, technocratic, Mia Motley, PNM, World Economic Forum, United Nations style running of governance that we see very popular these days. Because what they are basically suggesting is that the people in the know should do what's best to make sure the country runs properly. So if you are a media person, you are educated, you have a bachelor's degree, you may even have a master's degree, you rub shoulders with the prominent people in society, you aren't just any and everybody. So you have a responsibility to not just publish anything. When you see they talk about disinformation, for example, and misinformation, it's not just about publishing what might be deemed to be incorrect. It's publishing things that, would sway the public in a way that makes the country harder to govern. And as a forward-thinking, progressive-minded person, that's not what you should be doing. So you work alongside those in power to craft narratives that work with the advancement of progress in the country. And many journalists have bought into that. Twitter really exposed a lot of them to an extent. You look at some journalists and what they say on Twitter, how they view the world, and you recognize they view the world as being part of the in crowd. They're there to push the world in a direction. So journalists are out there taking sides. The genocide and the apartheid and versus what journalists were originally, their original intention is basically as a window to the regular populace. The regular general population may not be able to witness all of these things, and I'm here to present you the information. That's what I'm here for. Information. I present it to you, and that's that. But no, we don't have that anymore. I am now part of the apparatus that is supposed to govern this place properly. I am a technocrat. And we see, at least I see that in much more in modern times, as we have this advancement of a more technocratic view on things. Oh, my device is doing what it wants. Apologies over there to you folks on YouTube. Device over there seems to, be doing his own thing. Happens sometimes. Get your press pass, Nathan, go ask some questions. Well, as far as I recall, lots of people that were attempting to do that found out that it's not as easy to get your press pass locally. And the government screens exactly who they allow in. So it's not a free-for-all. Everyone doesn't just get a chance to go in there and ask questions of those in authority. You have to be screened, and they don't just keep anyone. They'll keep talking about SSE. Yeah, maybe they are, bro. Maybe they all of a sudden my camera does not want to stay functioning. Listen.
That's funny. That's funny. I ain't gonna lie. That's funny, man.
I don't know.
That's the thing, right? Like, I think, yes, I think the citizens do want some transparency with their government. But it's hard to get that when talking about get your press pass and the government and screen for press pass. Does that even sound like a transparency thing that the government actually wants? No, they want certain people to ask particular curtailed questions.
Exactly.
That they could answer freely off the whip of their tongue. To make them sound savvy, one, to make them sound charismatic, two, and to make them sound like they actually know what they're doing.
It's true.
Because even when they get catch with that off the wall by one, either they're doing like a call member, no comment at this present moment, or they're stumbling over their words like anyone else in it's like so these citizens do want transparency, but the citizens have to understand, listen, government is going to do everything within their power to not give you transparency. They don't want you to know exactly what they are doing. And they are supposed to be serving you. And this is why I tell people, I said, listen, y'all gotta know who you're dealing with. And who you're want to actually 14 inside. Because if you think you're about to get transparency just because you're supposed to matter, that's a negative now.
And I urge people to remember the kind of disregard and nearly disgust that we are treated by when we ask questions by some of these people. And when they come for your vote, remember such things. Like, I think some of that would have been, for example, why some people get dirty water kicked on them. Because people remember those things. People remember the way you spoke, the way you treated, the way you seem like you think you're better and elevated above. And when we want questions answered, you did. And now you're coming to papish dirty water. You understand why those things happen? You understand exactly why those things happen. Sometimes, and I understand again, as I always say, why governments like ours do not want an armed population. You know, if you are whining in people's face and spitting in their eyes and calling it rain and all of that kind of stuff, the last thing you want is a population who has lethal force. You know, if people might be willing to dash dirty water on you over your inconsistent representation, you know, you could get worried what else they might be willing to do. And, you know, speaking about that same district too, there's a story, a very unfortunate story. A policeman was murdered, but not before he got some rounds off. And to me, that's, I know some people don't even like the idea of that, but to me, that's telling about what an armed population is. That's one less robber. Okay, the policeman died, but he might have been murdered anyway, because there's an article saying that it may not have been a robbery, it was an attempted murder. And to me, that's all I'm asking of all the regular citizens. Why not the regular citizens? You know what's strange about that, though? You know what's strange about that? Let's jump into the article and see exactly what's so unique about this. Looking at government policy too, you know. Wounded cop killing suspect claims he was target. A police officer was shot and killed on Monday night in an attempted robbery in Londonville. Dale Myers, the police constable attached to the Arima police station, was shot in the chest and died at the hospital. A suspect in the shooting, a 24-year-old man of Nelson Street in Port of Spain, was found when he sought medical attention at the public hospital for gunshot injuries. Myers and two people were sitting in Unique Restaurant and Bar near Pencolands when they were confronted by a man with a firearm. Restaurant and bar. I know he didn't die. Abu Friday. You'll remember when they were recently bringing up the idea about safe zones. Ah, yes, White Leather, you remember. Bars are supposed to be gun-free zones. So, police brother and his brethren were supposed to be unarmed sitting ducks. That's what our government wants policy to be. That the policeman who was murdered wasn't even supposed to fire off some rounds at his murderer. He was supposed to take them shots and die, just so. And the murderer was supposed to probably kill the next man too and rob them while he at it. And then happily go off to East Port of Spain. As they almost all do. Because you all saw that, right? A man of Nelson Street, Port of Spain. Nearly every night for our lives so far, I have been reading one of these stories. Because The point I am trying to make over and over is this ridiculous statement we love to make in Trinidad is the poor people and the poverty causing the crime, and the poor people, that's why we are crime people poor. No, it's vice versa. It's the crime makes certain areas impoverished. Certain areas generate criminals like nowhere else, and that's why they remain poor. And I read these stories night after night, showing you a robbery in Arima, where the guy is from. A robbery in Carney, where is the guy from? A robbery in Londonville, where is the guy from? And you trying to tell me every night these people leave from East Port of Spain to go through the entire country and rob it. And there isn't a way to stop this? While we know there's a bottleneck into Port of Spain, that's what the reason we have traffic from 5 in the morning till 5 a.m. till 10 a.m. every day, bumper to bumper traffic, is because there's a bottleneck into Port of Spain and there are very few routes to take into that city. We know it seems like nearly all the criminal activity throughout the island is fueled from certain districts, and there's nothing that could be done to button that down. Really? Abu Friday says, Nathan, you know how rich Nelson Street is? Lol, people really don't know. I don't know personally because I'm not a familiar of the Nelsons. But I am aware that many of those places are very wealthy. And one of the things that I really hate to hear is the idea that, you know, the poor fellas, the little ghetto youth out there, them don't have that big money, you know. It's the big businessmen that doing all the thing, and them fellas have money. I have been saying this for years. Those fellas have money. Those fellas have real money. I'm not even talking about jokey money, just a thick wad of $5 bills to make them look fat. No. I'm talking multiple Range Rovers within their fleet of cars kind of money. I'm talking money to throw 10 grand at police and not think about it. I mean, money. People like to joke and mock at some of the criminals some of the alleged criminals with their big gold chains and gold pieces and all of that. Like watch them wasting thing and upnet. No. A lot of that is not no upnet. Some of them probably are storing better value than you because gold is a better value store than cash. You know, the government can't wake up in the morning and say, bring in all your old gold. We have a new gold that you have to exchange it for. Gold is gold. So, there's real money in these areas. So, a lot of the times when you see poverty looking like it looms in some of these areas, the crime is the problem. And I keep saying this because whenever I look at what the government attempts to do to help, they keep throwing money to try and stop the poverty, and the money ends up just filtering into the crime. The money doesn't stop the poverty, it helps the crime, which reinforces the poverty. I keep saying this. You want to help those communities? Stop the crime, and the poverty will see about itself for them. The initiative is being done by the East Port of Spain Development Company through its new Community Business Incubator program. In an interview last Friday with Sunday Business, EPOS Chairman Hilan Moraine said one cannot hide from the fact that crime impacts the 19 communities that are in East Port of Spain, and doing such initiatives to help finance a micro-business or startup can assist with employment and reduce criminal activity. Yes, if you give money to the micro businesses, they will get a job and stop doing crime. Or if you give money to the micro businesses, the criminals will extort the money from them and get more money to buy more guns. How are you giving money to communities that are under siege? Remember when some say they're from Nelson or Duncan, most look down on them, status divide. Yeah, there is some of that, but as much as that might not be ideal, can you blame someone? Can you blame someone? If indeed, every time you read the news, anybody robbed anywhere in the country seems like the robber bandit is a black person from East Port of Spain, can you blame people in the country? Humans are experts at recognizing patterns. Can you blame people for recognizing patterns? Really? Are you upset that people in the country are concerned and a bit worried about black people from East Port of Spain? Is that a shocker? I don't think it is. And I don't think giving businesses, giving the Tulum lady $20,000 in East Port of Spain is going to stop the crime in that area or change the perception people have of Duncan and Nelson Street residents. That's not going to stop that. Of course, criminals are being funded constantly. Remember, many of these gangs have extortion schemes running. If you announce to the gangs, because this is an announcement to East Port of Spain, and we know large sections of East Port of Spain are gang run. If you announce to the gangs, we are injecting $20,000 grants for all micro businesses. Doesn't that sound like something the gangs would try to get in on?
Do people not understand what a criminal organization is? At the end of the day, it's a business. So they will be, if you check out nearly every single criminal organization, they have partaken in every single scheme that would make them money.
Bro, you know the cartels.
Extortion of businesses.
The cartels in Mexico, at a point in time, were dealing in avocado, you know.
Yeah.
You think they care? You think they like coke so much? You think they love coca, the coca plant? They have a special affinity to this? No, they don't care about the plant. They don't care about ganja being the healing of the nation and all that talk. Y'all, if ganja don't have no money, y'all gonna the plant that yourself and smoke it. The day ganja has no money, the cartels stop doing it. It's money they're about.
Yeah, like people think that it's only because criminal organizations have a certain thing attached to them that they will believe that this is the main thing that the criminal organization would want to deal in. No, hey, if pens could have sold billions of dollars like cocaine, you will be surprised of a cartel somewhere selling only pens and trafficking pens across the border. It's the facts. The money is where it resides. Criminal organizations want to make money, and they will extort. They will do whatever. Literally, like extortion is not a new thing. You understand what I'm saying? It's as old as time, right? It's as old as the Roman Empire. Some criminal organization in the Roman Empire was literally extorting little businesses in the synagogue. It's not new.
Extortion has regularly and for a long time been a thing. I mean, if I have the power and you don't, well, give me the money. It's kind of the way it has gone. It's not a strange shocker, really, and truly Dream Chaser says, hence the reason why the stoppage of crime is a main priority, because crime is a lucrative operation. Exactly. And that is my point. You don't stop the poverty by money, and when you pay, I keep saying this, I've said this before, when you pay out the poverty, you're going to cure the crime. No, you're going to pay the poverty, and the money is going to go straight into the crime. You need to cure the crime, and then the poverty will start to see about itself. Maureen also pointed out that this initiative is the economic impetus for social economic development and is inspired by the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Listen, these things aggravate me constantly. Look where it is coming from. These geniuses who keep failing issues the world over with their grand plans, constantly interfering the world over. With their sustainable development goals, particularly Goal 8, promote sustained, inclusive, and sustainable economic growth, full and productive employment, and decent work for all. And Goal 10, reduce inequality within and among countries. And here's the problem with these United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. They promote socialism. Because these goals are goals that only the state, by theory and by design, can effect. The only people that could take a country and say we make this country into a more sustainable, inclusive, and with sustainable economic growth, the only people that could do that is the government. So by telling the world that everywhere in the world must have these sustainable development goals, you're basically increasing the power of all governments the world over. That is what they're doing. Like, okay, they say that they're trying to make life nice for everyone in the world. That's what they say. But the effect is to increase governmental power all over the world. And then at the same time they're doing that, increasing the amount of power the government has on the individual societies, they are increasing how much these governments depend and rely on each other. So making a stronger and stronger global government by effect. That's the United Nations by design. And I hate that. I want no part of it. Zero. Nothing to do with it. Leave me out of it. I don't want your sustainable development goals. The world has seen what gets people out of poverty. Not government central planning. Not the government giving 20,000 to micro businesses and micro entrepreneurs in East Port of Spain. No. Free market and proper land rights. Those two things. Free market dealings and proper land rights. And in the proper land rights, the proper property laws, the effect of that is basically crime fighting. Because someone has to be able to own property. And to own property, someone cannot just take it from me. So I have to have the law enforcement to protect my ability to own property. And then I must have the free market that allows me to trade my property at will. Give me those two things, and you will see people get wealthy. They don't need your $20,000. All your $20,000 does is incapacitates people's own critical thinking and moving and fuel crime constantly. This is also significant. This is also tied significantly, he said, to our National Development Strategy 2016 to 2030, particularly Theme 1, putting people first, nurturing our greatest asset. But most importantly, it is tied to the vision of the residents who, from Beetham to St. John Street, from Never Dirty to Malik, Caledonia to Gonzales, Sealots to Belmont, have called for more support and investment to help residents self-actualize. Many of them have wonderful business ideas and lack the capacity and support to turn those dreams into reality. Let me tell you this. Those business ideas would always struggle as long as you are attempting to launch the business in territory run by gangs. You could have the perfect business plan. If you tell me it's down to the end of Pioneer Drive in Sealots I have to go to access your business, well, I might. Most people won't. So you coming and telling them, well, what we're going to do is give you $20,000 grant to start that business down in the back of Sealots. For what? For what? That's not the issue. The issue wasn't the startup. Yes, they might have beautiful ideas, but the ideas can't go forward when they are surrounded by crime. So if you really want to do this sustainable developmental goal, get a concerted crime fighting effort, go into those districts, lock it down, and watch people move about freely. But no, they won't do that. They won't do that one. That's not sustainable development. Sustainable development is government grants. Give you money. And then you tell we thank you and vote for us again. That's how we do it, brothers and sisters.
Exactly, Nathan. And that's the thing right there. What you said right there, because when people talk about how crime is a lucrative money-making business for the government, I don't necessarily think so. Government dashes out money every single day, right? The thing we want to give grants and dash out money, I don't think the government is interested in necessarily making money on crime. I think the government is necessarily interested in expanding their power base in terms of allowing certain things to happen. That's just the truth. I believe politicians and their cohorts and their friends are hell-bent on maintaining and expanding their reach and power to the entire country, globally, however they want to do it, right? Because at the end of the day, they could say they're going to put $1.4 billion back within the country of Trinidad and Tobago in order to diversify the economy and give to the people. That will make no difference. Because if you do that and the crime rate still spirals out of control, it just seems to me that the people are going to still be hell-bent on voting for a government that they believe will help them, because they just spend $1.4 billion and just flush it all over the country. That don't make no sense.
There was a statement, I think by one of the American founding fathers or someone like that, where they spoke about this, and many people have the assumption that democracy is automatically just better. But there are benefits of even monarchies, because monarchies won't suffer this problem that we're going to talk about here. The idea in many democracies where the founding fathers spoke about that, where people could after a while realize that they could vote themselves to rob the treasury. They could vote themselves into robbing the treasury. I vote for people who would just take money out the treasury and give it to me. And if someone goes up for election with that being their mantra, I am going to go into the treasury, take money out and give it to you. For example, Mr. Watson Duke said things very similar to that. Thief the money self now. He said those things. And those things are very alluring to some people. Now, the reality is that is going to crash your country and cause insane suffering for a massive number of people. But to the selfish people, that doesn't matter. And there are many people in many countries who have realized that. Countries the world over who recognize, wait, now, I could vote myself, well, riches. And if I am in a poorer class in the country, and I could vote to take all the money from the wealthier people, wouldn't I want to do something like that? Of course I will. Abu Friday spoke about big $1 million businesses inside CLATs, and it isn't even owned by the people in CLATs. That to me reinforces the point I'm making right there, because we regularly see Haiti still has billionaire. Haiti has a billionaire. Haiti still has $1 million businesses, but because of the difficulty of functioning in a fallen anarchic state, you cannot do a business startup there. That's not where you do business startups. That's where a company that has millions of dollars as their overheads anyway could function in an environment like that. If Ansa McCall wanted, they could go down in the back of Sealats, buy out the swamp, fill it up, and put a big, massive compound down in the back there, and they don't have big worries about that really and truly. Because they have the capital to, as it will, think of it as if crime creates another barrier to entry. We spoke about this previously on lives. Barrier to entry. There's a barrier literally that makes it difficult for you to enter into this area of commerce. Money makes it possible for you to climb over any barrier. It's just a matter of how much money you have. There are basically no barriers that money cannot climb. It's just a matter of how much money. Crime raises the barrier for entry, and it raises it significantly. Businesses that are $1 million businesses have the money to surpass that barrier. Small man who lives in the community who has an innovative business idea does not. And you reinforce the cycles of poverty where the rich get richer and the poor get poorer, and your criminal brethren who robbing everybody around the place is the person who is doing it to you and your community. It's not the rich guy living in the gated community that flies out to Miami with his family and you look at him and you are envious and you want to kidnap his children and take his money because he should never have that money. It's not his fault. He is using what he has, and maybe he has his own dishonesty to answer for, but the cause of that are your neighbors. The same poor people down in the barrel with you, they are keeping you in the barrel too. And when the government comes and throws $20,000 inside of the barrel and say, hey, come out of the barrel now, all that does is it causes the crabs inside of the barrel to bite each other more fiercely. No one really gets out. But that's how especially Trinidad and Tobago governments run. Let's jump over to Tobago before we close. Jump out in Tobago there. Finally, the Chief Secretary made his changes. And I told you all, I believe that when Watson Duke was urging him to make those changes, that Watson Duke and obviously the other politicians in Tobago are looking to see the fallout from those changes, because the TPP is a brand new party. And, well, there's talk about what the possible fallout might be. Dr. Soifat Angus to Chief Secretary. Why demote Terence Baines? Innovative Democratic Alliance leader Dr. Denise Soifat Angus says she is eager to see how the demotion of former Secretary of Community Development, Youth Development and Sport Terence Baines would play out in the context of the Farley Augustine-led administration's bid for re-election in the next THA election, constitutionally due in 2025. So he moved Mr. Terence Baines, he basically switched him, demoted him to a lower position, and promoted Joel Sampson, who was in the previous lower position, promoted him into the previous role played by Baines. Baines, interim leader of the Tobago Forwards, was selected as the Progressive Democratic Patriots candidate for Bethel Mount Irvine. He lost that one initially, and then he won it when they won the 14 seats. So he is the interim leader of a political party in Tobago. I don't know what the current state of the Tobago Forwards is. I don't know if they still exist as a party out there. I don't know what level of movement and vigor they have on the political landscape in Tobago. But I also don't know if his demotion inside of the Tobago House has anything to do with the fact that he is indeed the political leader of another party. Interesting. Very interesting. Soifat Angus said Baines is not just a former schoolmate but a former classmate. I really felt it for him. It is an embarrassing situation. Regardless of him saying he is now the deputy presiding officer, it is an embarrassing situation. Commenting on the reshuffle on the Tobago Updates morning show, Soifat Angus described it as cloak and dagger politics. She wondered if Baines' demotion was related to his feud with Tobago West MP Shamfa Kojo Lewis and the Blackrock Village Council over jurisdiction of the multi-purpose regional complex in the area. And that is what I was wondering too. Because I read about 2 weeks ago a very interesting release that was purported to come from that very same assemblyman. And it purportedly showed that he was refusing use of community centers, multi-purpose centers, in that district unless they came straight through him and don't let nobody else use it, basically. I don't know if it was a power trip kind of thing, and I don't know if his demotion had something to do with it. Very interesting. To see how it all lands would be, it would just be, they have another year to go to see if Mr. Farley could hold the whole boat together before they come into docks at the next time. Going to be interesting. Let's jump into this story here that was asked about last week. First intra-regional sailings as early as August. An estimated 6 million CARICOM citizens could benefit from an intra-regional ferry service for goods and travel from as early as August 2024. Speaking at a press conference on May 13th, Plion Group Incorporated CEO Dr. Andre Thomas said their initial plan to begin sailings in November has been accelerated through two recent partnerships. One, he said, is with CARICOM private sector organization, whose guidance and data have helped them make faster progress. Their understanding of the trade landscape, the commerce landscape, has been indispensable in guiding us in making strategic, logistical, and tactical decisions where this project is actually concerned, he said. The second critical partnership is with the United Arab Emirates-based Jampur Group. He said they have entered into an agreement with them to provide the first ships to service the island chain. They are our shipping partner. And what's great about them is that they have their own shipyard. They repair ships. So all the success conditions required for such a venture have really been met. We have travel partners, cargo partners, and e-commerce partners, and now we have a shipping partner with over 30 years experience in this particular field. This would accelerate our launch date. He said at the earliest, the new time frame for the first sail is between August and October. This, he said, will be primarily for cargo and travel. He said the goal is to eventually get around 10 cargo vessels and two large luxury ships for travel that can accommodate up to 1,000 passengers at a time. Lovely. To overcome the challenge of multiple currencies, this, I think, is one of the key movements inside this idea in the Caribbean here. Listen to this. To overcome the challenge of multiple currencies within the region, Thomas said the consortium is working with the African Exim Bank to utilize its Pan-African Payment and Settlement System, PAPS. What a name, PAPS. I believe it will be game-changing for Caribbean economies because what it will do, it will allow a woman who is based in Guyana to produce soaps from the Amazon and sell it to a woman in Barbados. And a woman in Barbados could from her house create the most amazing jam that everyone says is wonderful and becomes a hit on the Connect Caribbean and sell 1,000 within a month to the nation of Jamaica. Thomas said they are currently working on acquiring the vessels, building infrastructure at the respective ports, and developing routes. He said the price of a ticket would, once all things remain equal, be around US $100. So 700 TT. Not bad.
You know, I know this might be controversial, but I don't see no problem with governments necessarily setting up free trade amongst citizens of different countries. If governments are willing to facilitate free market, by all means, spend your money and make free market a thing. I say burn all the coffers and give us free market.
And the thing is though, this isn't government. This is a private consortium. The consortium is a consortium comprised of Upturn Funds Caribbean, Upturn Funds New York, Windward Ferries, Ramps Logistics, so Ramps on the inside there, JS Cruises and Tours, and Hinkson Computer Solutions Incorporated. That name sounds familiar. So it's a consortium of private companies. So it's not even government. And they're linking with Afrexim to have basically a common currency to use with trade on their services. That, I think, has great potential. Greater potential than $20,000 into East Port of Spain. This is how you increase opportunity for people. You increase the free market possibilities. So like you was talking about there, many of the smaller manufacturers in Trinidad, many of those pepper sauce manufacturers, the people who make small food goods, etc., the possibilities for Caribbean-wide marketing, especially with the internet, and then a common currency would be there. And I think something like that may have more opportunity for smaller business people than for some of the larger businesses. The larger businesses already have the avenues for doing such. Small trade and common currency might be exactly the thing needed to allow for that movement of benefit down to the smaller man. We'll see as it goes, won't we?
That's the thing, but you see, there's the thing, Nathan, because a consortium, you see, I would not be shocked to believe that there will be some politicians that sit on some of these boards or some of these companies that will be within this consortium. You know, it's funny to me how, you know, our esteemed, honorable politicians could sit upon these boards of these companies and make free market money. But when it's time to open up the free market to these citizens of their country, like, oh no, we can't allow you to make money freely. We can make money freely. No. You need to stay down there.
Yep. Remember, it was our lovely finance minister who went out there and buff up young people for wanting to start businesses that just import goods and sell it locally. So that's why they had to increase that tax, you know, that import tax. Make sure that, you know, these young people aren't doing that. That just bleeds foreign exchange. That's not real innovation. And I'm pretty certain that if you look around, Mr. Imbert and very likely his family members are doing just that by the millions. They're bringing products from some other foreign country and putting a markup on it and selling it locally. No real innovation or anything added. They're doing that. But they corner you out of that market. No. You don't dare do that. That's not innovation. You go and look for a coconut tree and cut the leaf and plait the leaf into a fiber and make cloth out of coconut fiber, and then you could export that and become a millionaire off of that. But you don't get to import things and sell. No, that's too easy. That's left for us.
Yeah, truly funny stuff, man. Truly funny stuff. That's just how it is, huh? Like you would think, yeah, private consortium willing to open up the free market among countries of Africa and the Caribbean, or some of the politicians that sit on the board could care less about opening up the free market in their country in order to set the citizens free and actually give the citizens a leg up in this whole damn thing. It's like, no. We need to make all the money we can make, but you peasants must be in the mud where you deserve, because that's your station, that's your place. You understand what I'm saying? And this is what I'm saying. When they talk like this to you, or when they show you in actions, you need to also move the same way. Don't vote for them. Come in but tell you all every single day that you all are beneath him.
Yep. The guy looks down on all of us. Imagine a guy that short looking down on all of us.
It's funny because that's just the truth. And this is how I don't understand how Trinidad and Tobago citizens kind of operate, because the PNM have that about them of this. We are above you, petty, you peasantry citizens. We are of an upper echelon, and you must vote for us because we will imbue you with our scraps of the dinner table because that is what you are owed. It's like, and the PNM still to this day could have the most power within this country. The citizens should be ashamed to keep voting for a party who would tell you, no, you don't deserve luxury. We deserve luxury.
It's the nature of the two-party system. As I always say when those discussions come, the PNM wins because of the UNC. The PNM could thank the UNC for being able to do whatever they want and stay in power. That's the basic idea. That's the basic idea of how it goes. Abu asked why isn't the CARICOM one block yet? Because people have interests that they want to protect. If the CARICOM becomes one big block, think of it like we're all in individual ponds, and you could be a big fish in your own small pond. But if we join all the ponds together, the biggest fish becomes the biggest fish in the whole pond. So there are some people who might be relatively big fishes in their pond and are very worried and concerned about what is going to happen if we all join into the same pond. And a lot of it has to do with, for example, Trinidad, many other CARICOM countries are worried about Trinidadian products flooding their country and their local products not being able to compete because Trinidad has a manufacturing edge and we have cheaper energy, so our products may be manufactured for cheaper. While on the other hand, countries like Trinidad that are more wealthy would be worried that the poorer countries flood our country with cheaper labor and decrease the competition in our labor prices, causing people to get lower salaries. So that worry goes from the more developed countries to the less developed countries with their own specific areas of concern. And that's partially why. What's the alternative? Though anyone against consciousness is an antichrist. Fireflame, no alternative, we had to get shaft till the end. Ariel says on a side note, I saw Guyana plans free tertiary education for all by 2025. Ah boy, TNT poor now. I don't think that actually, I loved GATE when it was there. When GATE first came up, I thought it was a really good idea. But now in hindsight being 2020, I don't think free tertiary education is a positive thing en masse. I just don't think so. And I think the idea of what tertiary education is in the first place should be something that people take a little more time to think about, not something that is auto-flowed into like primary school to secondary school, which is going to happen when you make it free. And people aren't going to think about it with the same increased effort. The next thing it does is it makes your workforce older. It gives you older children. That's what it does. It effectively did the same thing in Trinidad and Tobago. That GATE program, I think, is part of the reason we have now the millennial generation more childless by the time they're 30, because they were in school. You're going to do that. Interesting with the Tanti Cam's encouragement for Mother's Day, drawing that parallel there, and lots of girls out there, lots of women were very upset about Tanti Cam saying that you should do what you were biologically made to do. But whatever, that's a side note. I think Guyana is going to do that very same thing when they make tertiary education free. Inevitably, you wind up... It's ironic to me. All the countries seem to be heading along the same path, and we could identify that this path leads down a direction. We look at South Korea, we look at those developed countries, we look at countries that are most progressive in the humanist secular sense, and they have no babies. So basically we are progressing to the point of suicide, and why would we do this? What's the point of that? All these, there was an article here, I don't know if I'll get into that article, with the responses to Tanticam's thing. We might go through that tomorrow. Some of the responses to Tanticam's encouragement to become a mother, and how offended so many people are, and the abuse around, and the this and the that, and all of the lie narratives that was sold to the younger generation. You see all of these 30-year-old women spouting the same thing with their aging wombs. And I don't mean that as an insult, I mean that just as literal. And like someone was saying, Tanticam's made it seem like she's that annoying great aunt who always asking the young girls when you're making a baby. We need more of those annoying great aunts. We ran out of them. Now we have only fools for older people, it seems, that want to tell these younger people you can do whatever you want. That's a lie. What do you think this is? The land of make-believe? We live in a real world. You cannot do whatever you want. You cannot have it all. You just cannot. It's not going to be possible. It doesn't work like that. Everything doesn't just magically happen like that. You can't have it all. You can't do whatever you like. You can't have everything your way. It just doesn't happen that way. There are some difficult decisions you have to make, and you have limited time in which to make them. And there's no perfect outcome. You cannot have everything lined up with the perfect man who is going to give you all the money, and you have all the perfect houses and the vacations all around the world, and then you could have your two babies. It's not going to happen like that. Sorry, not possible. But Hotep, we go have to dive into some of those responses for Tanticam's tomorrow. Let me look to close there. Let me hear a closing statement there.
Definitely. Yeah, man, this ain't thing, man. I think this is a time for the populace.
Yeah, Pablo Friday.
Yeah, this is a time for the populace to really see where their servants' loyalties lie in terms of their government, and where they plan to head the country in, because it's no good. They are extending contracts of incompetent people in order to help curb crime. They are hiding information from you, and I think this is a pertinent time because next year is general elections. So I think the populace need to heed the actions of the government. That's just the truth of the matter. I know people love to talk about what's the alternative and who we want to vote for, and please, this is not a new thing people do. People have been deposing and all types of governments since government's been a thing. So the alternative is you should want better for your country that you live in as a native populace. And if you need to vote out every single body until they have no power left, then do so. That's the whole point of democracy. If you believe so hard-heartedly in democracy, use your power and vote them out till they have no power left.
Correct.
This is not a dictatorship, because you love to say how we are run by a dictatorial man. He's not a dictator. He doesn't have absolute power. He's not a monarch. This vote the people out. You understand what I'm saying? Be mindful, not mindless about the thing. It's just the truth of the matter. You understand what I'm saying?
Facts.
Use your power that you claim to have.
Yeah, Abu Friday family planning is still very much around pushing the experimental contraceptives. And just so you know, the family planning in Trinidad and Tobago is linked to Planned Parenthood, right? In case any of you all did not know that, it is linked to the same Margaret Sanger, and they went throughout the world, you know. They went to India too, and if you here's a good homework lesson for a lot of you all. Go see what family planning, Planned Parenthood, the eugenicists, go see what they did to India. And it's a good thing India caught itself, because by India catching itself and reinvigorating their baby making expertise, they are now one of the homes for the human capital. And they seem to be on the trajectory to take top position just by fault of human capital. You see, that's one of the things that many people take for granted about children, about more people. They think more people means more mouths to feed. Yes, partially, but also more people means more hands with the ability to create food for those mouths. And if you look at somebody who is useful through their lifetime, they are a net positive on society. So if you have more people, you have more net positives on society. It was what the eugenicists didn't cater for. They thought too lowly of human beings. They thought that humans are just mouths to feed, and the more of them are just going to, like a bacteria, suffocate the earth. But that's not what happened. The more of us there were, we were able to specialize more. One person was able to go into specializing into making one tiny little computer chip, while another person could specialize into making one other component on that computer. And you could have 1 billion different specializations and bring them together to get a very complex computer. And you could only do that if you have the 1 billion different specialties. If you had 10 people, you couldn't do it. And that's the problem. It's one of the things that many of those anti-human, anti-natalist people don't account for. They hate humans. That's why you shouldn't befriend those people. And the young ladies, and it's mostly young ladies, it's very unfortunate that many young women, many young ladies bought into this. And I'll say it again, I close with it regularly. I think it's very unfortunate that one of the preeminent topics for women in modern times is, even if you don't want to call it killing your baby, is killing your baby. Like, how did that become the most important topic for women? Consider that for a moment. Similarly, like, how is it that women feel insulted by an elderly mother who was the first female prime minister, the first female attorney general, telling you try motherhood? How could you manage to be insulted by that? Consider that for a bit. Wonder to yourself, am I captivated in an ideological delusion? Is this a realistic feeling I feel? Ask yourself that. Alright people, I hope you're educated, informed, or entertained. I am Nathan Springer. This has been the Mindful Live Show. I'll see you guys again for the next Mindful Live Show, which is going to be tomorrow night around that 9:30 p.m. time. Until then, people, hold it down. Stay well, stay safe. Kind of stay inside, outside. They're sketchy. People are always telling all that in outside. They're sketchy bad. Western women, South America, Africa, Asia, not killing nobody babies. It's not even discussed. Fact. And you see the benefit in those populations from that. Latest people,